Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my friend. He is the host of the Jiteiros C2C podcast. I fuck up that all the time. Yes, but the JJ C2C podcast, he is the one, the great, purple belt extraordinaire, Frank Garcia. Frank, what's going on, bro?
Adam, thanks for having me on, brother. Pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast, man. Been following you for a while. I almost feel like going through your episodes, going back to your catalog. I'm like, dude, I feel like this is all the stuff we talk about in jiu-jitsu. We talk about fights. We're always talking about pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're always trying to do wrestling moves on the mats. This is like a perfect match, man.
I love it, and we're here. Like, I mean, look, I'm rocking a Heenan School of Broadcasting, and that Heenan is obviously Bobby the Brain Heenan. That's my fucking school of thought. We're kind of on the road to WrestleMania. Shout out to Rafa Esparza with the Grappling Hour and Verbal Tap podcast, because he is having WWE BJJ week. In the weeks leading up to Mania, so we're gonna see people in sharpshooters and shit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, you're a purple belt, and I'm gushing. Like, I'm literally gushing because you've attained where I want to get in purple belt status. Because, again, much like you, grew up watching pro wrestling, so I'm all like, pro wrestling, you get belts. Like, I thought, like, Carl Lewis was cool and the medals and awesome, great, but the belt looked way cooler, right? So right. I want a purple belt for no other reason to compete at NAGA, the North American Grappling Association, because at purple belt, when you win, you get a belt. That makes sense to me. Just saying.
Yeah, that's good motivation. Get that strap.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so, I mean, how did your jiu-jitsu, combat sports, everything, like, how did that start?
Oh, man, I mean, pretty much like a lot of the other guys. I mean, growing up, it was wrestling all the time, pro wrestling, It didn't matter if it was WWF, WCW, whatever the heck was on ESPN in the late, when it first started out.
Yeah, AWA?
AWA, there you go. Or even AAA. Lucha Libre in Mexico.
Yeah, AAA, CMLL.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So I was lucky enough to have those guys come to town quite a bit when I was a kid, and it was love at first sight, man. Ever since then, me and the cousins throw down the mattresses, dropping elbows, And then 1993 came, and then UFC was introduced, and I remember I was in high school at the time, and I told my friends, I was like, dude, there's gonna be this crazy show. Karate versus Kung Fu versus, dude, that sounds bad, like Bloodsport. Let's watch this. And everybody's like, let's go to the football game. And I'm like, the football game? Dude, we've been waiting for this our whole lives. What? Nah, man. And, we were introduced to hoist and jiu-jitsu at that time. And, man, as soon as I got a chance to step on the mats and start learning, I just loved it. That was it. Again, love at first sight,
Man, love at first sight, love at first choke, rather, because that's that's at hoist, man. And it's funny because I kind of similarly, like, if not for Dan the Beast Severn, I don't know, I could have probably heard about MMA up to this point, right? But, like, my first incarnation of, like, knowing what cage fighting and UFC, those first, Ultimate Fighting Champion, right? Like, was Jim Ross talking about Dan Severn walking down to, like, on Shotgun Saturday Night, flanked by Jim Cornette and 3 non-WWF belts. I knew enough about, like, the WWF at the point, pre-WWE, that Vince McMahon doesn't allow or acknowledge anything but his own brand, right? So Here comes Severn in just a gray t-shirt with, like, Stone Cold Steve Austin trunks, black on black, right? and had the blonde mustache and just like this gray dingy shirt. And he had 2 titles. That was the 2 UFC championships. I think the super fight and the heavyweight, and then the 10 pounds of gold. And I knew that from Harley Race, the great Harley Race. And I was like, oh wait, okay, like this and whatever. And especially what I knew about like pro wrestling up to that point, like the Hearts were everything, right? Yeah. You had Brett and Owen, top dogs in the WWF, right? Brett, the top dog, right? And then, you hear about Stu, who trained. He's a
legend, man.
Yeah, catch wrestling legend. Yeah. All of the sons were involved in wrestling. All of the daughters had 12 kids, right? All of the daughters ended up marrying wrestlers. And I was just like, and Stu was the badass. You come to town, you think you're hot shit, and guess what?
Put you through the grinder.
Yep, put you in one of those sugar holds and everything like that. And, it doesn't matter if you're a football player, basketball player, power lifter, or a wrestling bear one time of the year during Calgary Stampede up there in Canada. And he would choke out a bear. And I was just like, at that moment, Superman, cool. Another atmosphere. I was like, a dude like me can choke out a bear, but my parents are telling me I can't fly out the window? Fuck it. I'm rocking with choking out a bear.
Yeah, man. You can't beat that. What other sport can you do that? Like shooting a basketball is cool. Tackling someone's cool. But using someone's clothes to strangle the crap out of them or turn them into a pretzel, no matter what your size is, that's another level, man, and it's enticing to a lot of people.
No, yeah, 100%. So I mean, after that, you were on the first one. You knew about it. Did you get that on pay-per-view? Did you rent the tape after?
Oh no, dude. So check this out. So back in the day, my dad had one of them boxes.
Oh yeah,
we had all the channels, and at that time I was lucky enough to catch that, and so and then not only that though, down the street there was a crazy laundromat. It was like half laundromat, half video store, and it was an Asian video store, and they had a lot of Muay Thai tapes. And so back then, there wasn't no mixed martial arts, so I started renting these Muay Thai tapes and watching them, and pretty soon I had gone through all of them. And like just the next level below that, there were these other tapes, and it looked like pro wrestling because they had the boots on, they had the little chonies. And I was like, oh dude, wrestling, let's grab this, like Japanese wrestling or something. Turned out it was pancrase, so that was the early days of mixed martial arts back in the late 90s,
Yeah.
And then UFC came along, and then it went underground for a while. A lot of politicians against it, and then it kind of started coming back little by little. And we would get a show like every 3 to 4 months or something like that. And it was like church 4 times a year for a while.
That's amazing. So, I mean, at what point were you like? I mean, obviously coming in from like pro wrestling, so you kind of got the concept, right? And maybe the stuff that you're seeing in the WWF at the time, WCW, that was a little bit more kayfabe, right? Like there was a workmanship about it, right? So but here's real, and again, to kind of set the timeline for anybody watching, that it's nothing short of a luxury, the fact that we have a UFC like literally almost every weekend since July during a pandemic and whatever, but you couldn't find it. I mean, it wasn't legal here in California.
Yeah, there was nowhere to go, So I remember when UFC started coming back on pay-per-view. It was a little bit after the Fertitas bought it, when like Tito was the champ, the light heavyweight champ at that time. We were broke, you know what I mean? So we would get our pennies together and order the pay-per-view, and hey, you bring some chicken wings, you bring a case of beers, you bring some hot dogs, and it was just like a Friendsgiving, and we would watch these fights, and I cherish those moments so much. And I remember those early Pride Grand Prix, the early UFCs, the K1 Grand Prix. Just a lot of good stuff going on in the early 2000s, late 90s,
Oh, the glory days, the glory
Right.
days. I mean, kids today won't know, you know, and it's a weird one because you don't even have to know like the history. Like, there's probably like legit champions of organizations that do not know. Like, just like, oh, they always grew up with like a GSP and
Yeah.
Forrest Griffin and everything. Like, it's always been there, but like it really was a struggle.
Right? Like back in the day, even just to find a jujitsu gym with a black belt, like that was, you're not going to find a black belt. Good luck. You'll probably find more likely than not, early jujitsu days, you're probably getting taught by a blue belt,
Yep.
which wasn't bad. You know what I mean? But that's just the way it was. And nowadays, like, you have a handful of gyms and they all have at least one black belt, if not more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good time to be alive.
It is. It is. So, I mean, transferring from, obviously a patron, a fan, right, and then doing jiu-jitsu yourself. So, at what point does that happen in terms of your patronage of like early 2000 MMA?
You know what? I have a best friend, Eddie Contreras, who's on the podcast also. So shout out to Eddie.
Yeah.
He got me to try a lot of different things, got me out of my comfort zone. And one of the things he did was like, hey dude, we're gonna sign up for this gym. This gym opened up. Let's go check it out. And we went, and at that time it was a Hoist Gracie gym. It was a Hoist Gracie affiliation. And there was a purple belt teaching there. And it was just a really small school. And that was my first taste of it. After maybe like 6 or 7 months, I signed up for a tournament and I won my first match. I got a sub and then I got trashed in the next match. But I had so much fun. The adrenaline pumping through my body was just like, oh, dude, I got to get a taste of this again. And little by little, I started getting a little more involved and more involved and more involved. And next thing you know, I'm a purple belt.
I love it. I love it. Now, and it's funny because like I'm part Fijian, right? And we will say amongst the islands, it doesn't matter what you are, what ethnicity you are, what racial background, whatever, financial, whatever. Once that island hits you, you will brah, and whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you grew up with. That doesn't matter. It's indiscriminatory, right? But also the jiu-jitsu bug, right? Because once you start getting in the mat, you're just like, you're right, and you get smashed, like, and especially, the higher level belts, when you first start out, they don't want to, like, you're all weird and awkward and kneeing them in the face, and, and they're preparing for competitions and everything like that. It's a weird one, but like...
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I remember when I first started, there was another guy who was also a white belt, but he had been training a little more than me. Mm-hmm. And we were similar size, so I would the first time we would bump fists, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this kid. And not only that, I was like, was I thinking I'm gonna get this kid? One of the main reasons was, number one, we were about the same size, and number two, he looked like Ed Sheeran, dude. I don't know if you're familiar with Ed Sheeran. Dude,
maybe you were thinking out loud.
I saw, dude. That guy would demolish me every day. He would just whoop the crap out of me. I mean, I would come home with gi burns on my face. He just had his way with me. And that was a big motivation for me for a while. I was like, I got to get better. I got to get better. And at the time, I was pissed because he was wrecking me, but he made me get better really, really fast, So I don't know where Ed Sheeran is at now in the jiu-jitsu world, but thank you, Ed Sheeran. Probably a black belt by now. But good times, man.
Dude, it's funny because you, Ed Sheeran, me, I actually, like, similar story, but shout out to Ted Williams, who's actually a drummer of Band of Family over there in Bakersfield, but he looks like a baby Phil Collins. Like, and he would choke me out, and I was just like, I love Phil Collins growing up. I hate it now. Like, he would literally demolish me for an hour's time and whatever, and then I would click on the radio and then be like No Son of Mine or In the Air Tonight, and I'm like, fuck, man, Yeah, because that would actually play in my head as he's literally like Gibbering me and Ezekiel-ing me and all that shit. It was
Just have the randomest thoughts when you're in the worst positions, right?
I know. I was just like as he's passing my guard, like I can feel it in the air. Like that was when it was fucking murder. Like
Maybe that's like his cue. You know what I mean? That's what he's playing in his mind, and he's going along with it.
Maybe I just telegraphed that some bitch, and it just every time, So and it's kind of fun, like this association. Like when I first started, people would just go like, "Hey, Hanach," and I didn't know of the culture and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And Hanato Naranj, right? Like, and
when I first saw your pic, I'm like, "Is that Hanato?" Oh, damn!
Which, funny enough, like went to High Rollers, like one of the last ones that they had in LA. Which, geez, that's an experience. Like you grapple for a pound of weed and whatever, right? But
yeah, we just had a guy who competed in the last one on the show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
he was telling us some crazy
stories. Absolutely. So I mean, I walk in, right, and Blanca Garcia, shout out to Blanca, right, and she goes like, "Do you know Hassan?" I'm like, "No, I've been told. I've been looking at them." It's like, "You do." And she fucking beelines me to the fucking stage while he's fucking hosting, and he's like, and he fucking cuts an Ultimate Warrior promo on me in front of like, it was amazing. Like, it's fucking chill. He's great. He's so great, and a lot more svelte than I am, a lot more put together than I am. But I didn't know, Yeah, but it's and I might have played him in this like an off-brand version of him for my buddy's jiu-jitsu like gear company and stuff like that. So I think the statutes of limitations are off where I can actually say like,
hey, impersonation is the biggest form of flattery, man.
Yeah, porra, carajo.
Yeah. You've been practicing, man.
I've had like almost 10 years, good lord. But I mean, in terms of timeline, right? Like your first, your introduction, and you start, training with your friend, right? And then your first competition. How much time was in between? And set the table. Like what time period is this? Early 2000s? Is this?
Yeah, this was like 2000. No, this was like mid 2000. I want to say 2004, 2005. And so, I want to say maybe like 6 or 7 months into it, I had no game, dude. I sucked. I had no sweeps, no subs, no wrestling, no nothing. But Eddie challenged me. He's like, "Hey, dude, we're gonna do this," and he made me stick to my word, and I did it, And lucky enough, I was able to get that one sub. It was a rear naked, so everybody knows the rear naked. But second match, I went up against this. He was a wrestler, and turned out he was also powerlifting and doing jiu-jitsu at the same time. And he just double-legged, but doubled me, hit the mat, passed my guard, got me in a scarf choke. And I just remember like I was turning a certain way, and I could see the stands, and everybody's just like, "Is there somebody like, ooh?" And I'm like, "All right, it's time to get out of here." And I tapped, yes. So that was my first taste of jiu-jitsu tournament life, bro. It was awesome. Yeah.
Did you at least get an acai after the humiliation?
I didn't get an acai, but I got a double bacon cheeseburger after that freaking wrecked my stomach because I had been
cutting weight.
Clean. Yeah, I was eating clean. So the ride home wasn't so fun. But again, awesome experience. I wouldn't change anything about it.
No, I gotta know. Like, did you have your family out for your first like jiu-jitsu comp? Or
I had a girlfriend there at the time.
Okay.
And so it was just me and her that went out, and then my team.
Okay.
And I remember my coach after I got taken down. He goes, "Don't do nothing stupid." So That was all. That was another cool moment. I vividly remember that.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the girlfriend at the time, right? Like, hey, Frank's supposed to be my protector, and shit, and he's getting fucking choked out. Hey, I've had a similar experience where, like, I remember getting tossed, like literally tossed, by a gal who probably I had weighed at least by 80 pounds. And then falling at the feet of my wife, who was already like, that looks frustrating. What the fuck are you doing? And it costs too much, right? But she believed in the dream. She still does. Shout out to my wife, right? But I landed at her feet. Yeah, that's Mario Yamasaki, the wife. There you go. Boom. There you go. But I landed at her feet, and she's just like roll eyes, right? Now I find solace position over submission. I fucked up and I should have had a low center of gravity and pivoted my hips or whatever. But also, the gal who threw me is the Raging Panda Julia Avila, who's now in the UFC. So, I ain't mad at it. I'm not
mad at that, man.
Like, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
I'm mad at it.
I will be bragging about that if I were you.
I'm just saying, she threw me on my head. I'm a pencil-neck geek because, like now I got back problems. My C3 is, fucked. But, yeah, well, it's a good story, bro.
Yeah, heck yeah. Makes for a great story.
So, after that jiu-jitsu bug, right? So, I mean, prior to the competition, did it hit you? Like, did you, okay, this is my path. Like, and it's funny because, it's not like you make tons of money doing jiu-jitsu. You're lucky if you get your gym fees covered or can pay them at all, right? But at what point did, it hit? Like, did you know pretty early on?
No, I didn't. To me, it was just like a club thing that I was going like, we might as well be playing Magic the Gathering because I'm just learning how to play this game, So yeah, I mean, I was just and at the time I was like, right now I'm probably like 135, 140 pounds. But dude, when I first started, I was like 160, 165. I remember one of the reasons why I wanted to start jiu-jitsu was not only because Eddie encouraged me to do it, but I was super overweight and I needed to cut some lbs quick. So that was kind of my motivation as well to start out, But I would say it didn't hit me until I was cutting weight, and I didn't wrestle in high school or middle school, so I didn't know crap about cutting weight. So I'm just like trying to eat the smallest portions that I can and keep up the pace that I'm at. And after like 2 days, I get on the scale and I'm like, what the 3 pounds? That's it? Oh, heck, that was an eye opener right there. That was when I figured out like, hey, dude, it's gonna be a lot harder than you thought it was gonna be,
Yeah. Which, I mean, you got a lot more discipline than I. I'm like, I'm gonna cut weight and whatever, and then the in and out happens, and I'm like, yo, double though.
Animal style.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, if you're gonna go, you gotta go all hard.
All everything, yo.
Go home and jalapeno the shit out. Just free. You can't leave in and out if you dine in. I mean, obviously pre-COVID, but you had to have three refills is what you get right out of the lemonade, right? And if you do anything less, would be uncivilized, is what I'm saying.
Nah, you're wasting your time and you're wasting in and out time.
I'm just saying they ain't got time for that. Like Tweet Brown, ain't nobody got time for that. Right. No, Jesus is a fire, right? Yeah. I'm just saying. So obviously that first competition didn't go your way, but going back to the gym, what was the feeling? Like, oh, I know what I need to improve on. Did you, like your coach said, did you end up coming back and not doing anything stupid? What was it coming back?
I ended up going back, and I felt good because you know what? I stepped up, and there was only a handful of us that had signed up and actually went through with the tournament. And so I felt good about that, but I didn't feel good about my jiu-jitsu. And so towards the end of that first year, our coach was I wasn't sure what was going on. He was coming in and out, and he brought in another black belt to teach, Speedy Gonzalez, who's down in Visalia or Tulare around here now. And Speedy dropped in and taught a couple of classes, and then he went back to his school in Tulare and me and my buddy ended up driving over there after our contract was up. So we were driving quite a bit a ways for jujitsu, And then I want to say maybe a year after that, Dethrone Fresno opened up with Josh Koscheck's gym.
Yeah.
And Eddie, I don't know how, again, Eddie found out about it. We went in and there were 2 black belts. And you know what? Everything just clicked right away. It was like, I don't remember learning crap at my first gym so much. But when I got to that second gym with those 2 black belts, maybe it was because there wasn't a lot of students at the time and we were getting a lot of one-on-one. But my game, like in the first 6 months, just was through the roof. My confidence was through the roof. By I want to say like month 4 or 5, I was like, I want to do another tournament. I want to do a tournament right now. Coach was like, hey, hold on, let's wait a little bit. And then once we gathered enough people on the team, we went down to LA for one of the first Gracie Nationals.
Nice.
And, dude, it was like, I kind of felt like it was wrestling, and this is what wrestling in high school was. We're all in the hotel talking about cutting weight. We're in the sauna. We're talking strategy. And then we all walk into that arena as a team, and we all walk out regardless of what we had around our necks or not. And we had awesome time. And then from there, again, the love just increased even more.
I love it. And that's the other thing about the bug, right? Is the camaraderie, or the camaraderie that happens to jiu-jitsu. Because, and it's not just jiu-jitsu, but like martial arts. But I want to say it's like jiu-jitsu specifically, or, because, so in many ways, like catch wrestling is like, the dirty grapple, the grungy, I'm gonna like you literally face lock you and whatever, right? So you don't have that camaraderie there, right? You just like a bunch of Vikings, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of it, right? And then with like Muay Thai and boxing and all of those striking disciplines, like definitely karate, like traditional karate, you would basically do your thing and whatever, and you go home, right? You're not there is a culture, but like a lot of it isn't shared, right? But I think with jiu-jitsu, maybe because the Brazilian aspect of, like, not even like Japanese jiu-jitsu, you get that, but like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's just like, hey, I say, like that's, that's a very layman's like way to explain it, but I think that's what happens, and you choke, you get choked by somebody, and then they'll tell you, hey, this is what I do. You choke somebody else, slap hands and go, and whatever. Yeah. And then you really feel like you get what people are about, right? Like somebody that might drive their knee into your bridge of your nose and whatever. Yeah, hey, maybe we're not grabbing a beer after. Like, it's like, maybe I'm not going to share my acai. Like, that's, and it's a truth teller. Like, and those mats are, that's why it's sacred, right? Like, no matter if it's boxing, MMA, whatever, it's all canvas. Everything is canvas, right? And you can say you train here, you could say blah, 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 what belt you are, how many years, whatever. You get on that mat, and that's going to be the truth teller. That's the truth serum, I think, right? And if you don't have the best of means, like, it'll weed it out. So that I think that's where the camaraderie comes from. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I have a cousin who's on the podcast, Anthony Martinez. Shout out, cuz. Love you.
Yeah, shout out, Anthony.
And so we've had a few vets on the show as well. And one of the things the vets talk about, one of the reasons why they love jiu-jitsu so much is they say there's a camaraderie and a brotherhood that reminds them a lot of military life. Because you're in some compromising positions, man. We're trusting each other with our bodies. You know what I mean? Like, I got to go to work tomorrow, but you got my arm in a precarious situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, Eddie Bravo said, jiu-jitsu is like the ultimate douchebag filter. So if you're a douchebag, you come in with a big head, a big ego. Hey, there's a little 115-pound blue belt over there, and they're going to teach you respect, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's awesome, man. It brings out the best out of everyone. You know what I mean? So if someone can't handle being put through the grinder, getting their ego checked day in and day out, they're not going to last very long. But those that do last, oh, man, you're going to have a brotherhood, a sisterhood, because it's not just the guys on the mats, You're going to have a family. and you're gonna have a mindset that maybe you may not have had before. But once you get through the grinder, once you get so far in jiu-jitsu, I kind of feel like everything else is cake. You know,
Yeah.
after I stepped on the mat so many times, I remember I was playing in a softball tournament and there was a buttload of people. And my friend was like, dude, I'm nervous. And I'm like, dude, we're just going to swing a bat. Ain't nobody going to strangle you. Ain't nobody going to take you down. If we lose the game, we're still going to get beers after this. So it don't matter, you know? So it puts the world in a different perspective for sure.
Oh yeah, road rage, man. Like you could be like, whatever, and then like after you get into class, and then you like, and you just maybe that's professor like they might not be in a good mood, and like I was told for the third time, don't come minutes late and whatever, and you're just like whatever, and then the same scenario of like somebody cutting you off or whatever after jiu-jitsu, and it's just like, whatever, because because you literally survive in 6-minute increments certain death for like the last 90 minutes, so you're gonna be crying. It's cool.
Yeah, one of the main differences I feel like between jiu-jitsu and some of the other combat sports that you mentioned, you know, boxing, karate, Muay Thai, is we get to go 100%. You know, you can take it all the way as far as you can to the edge of the line, and you can just stay right there, you know. And out of respect, that's where you say. But come tournament time, you know, I'm sure you've seen sometimes people don't want to tap out. And hey, you might have to miss some training for a little while, but it happens.
Hey, I think Toto said it best. Hold the line. Love is always unkind. And that love, it's almost like a brotherly hug. It's Blake Troop says, blush. Excuse me. Yeah, but Blake Troop says, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Blake Troop says Big Brother Jiu-Jitsu. And it's like that. It's the brotherly love. It's almost like at times it's what Philly should be, right? Not just cheesesteaks, right? Like, but it's that big brother, like I'm going to give you a noogie. I might flush your hair down the toilet. That's just what's going to happen. And then I'm going to teach you how to do something else to anybody.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a paradox, right? Because like you would think like, bullying, and bullying scenarios and everything, but like bullying does happen in the culture, and it sucks when it does. But like, I want to say it's like mitigated, right? And again, going back to like the Mats being like the truth teller, is the fact that, well, guess what? Like, if somebody has not the best means in which they're doing it, if they just want to like, you know, do jiu-jitsu just to like punch somebody or something like that, or like just like weird, or they got bad vibes. It's weird how like the culture will just like kind of weed them out, or they weed themselves out. It's so weird.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, they don't last, you know.
Yeah.
I off the top of my head, I've been training for over 10 years almost, and I think I've only really seen like 2 gym bullies, maybe, you know, and they got handled quick.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, you know, and maybe it's like it's old school, but it also keeps it pure, I think. You know, which obviously, you know, so 10 years in jiu-jitsu, right? Well, purple belt, you've attained purple belt. Now, at what point do you like, hey, I mean, there's a lot of things that are part of the culture, but also, hey, podcasting, right? That's it too. So, you know, starting your podcast, like where did that come into kind of existence?
Oh man, so what happened last year in February, Eddie again was like, hey dude, I signed us up, open mic, 3 weeks, be ready. And I was like, oh, because we've always talked about doing an open mic, you know, we like telling stories, telling jokes. And so we did it. And I loved it. There was only like 12 people, but I loved it. And then we did another open mic, and then we signed up for a third, and then that was when the shutdown hit.
Wow.
And I had all these ideas of stuff that I wanted to do. And cousin Anthony Martinez was like, let's do something. Let's start a social media. You know, and I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about, but I'd always been into podcasting. You know what I mean? Like the first podcast I'd ever listened to was a Rogan, and he had on Boss Rutan.
Yeah.
And Boss was telling these sick, awesome bouncer stories from back in his days as working as a bouncer in Holland. And I was hooked by the podcast bug ever since then. And so I suggested, hey, let's start a podcast. You know, let's talk about what we're passionate about. And I said, you create a list, I'm gonna create a list, and where these lists intertwine, that's where we're gonna start. And jiu-jitsu was at the top, you know, and that's kind of where we ran with it, you know. There wasn't a whole lot of jiu-jitsu going on at the time, so we just almost like got a rag, dipped it in water, and tried to squeeze every last drop of jiu-jitsu we could, you know.
Yeah.
Luckily, Seth Daniels kept the Fight to Win shows going.
Yeah.
Who's number one kept things going. Flow Grappling was able to show a lot of those things, so we were still able to talk a lot about jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And then we just brought up, you know, things in the past that have happened, and so that's kind of how the show was born. You know, basically out of us being bored, locked up, not being able to practice jiu-jitsu, not being able to hang out with friends, and so, you know, we started Zooming, drinking beers, and one thing led to another.
But that's the best. Like, you know, you mentioned Rogan, right? And you look at, especially now that there's a one-stop shop for everything that is Rogan and the podcast, and, you know, on Spotify. But, you know, you're looking back in those, like, early episodes, and it's just like them drinking, them smoking, and just like having a good time. And I think that's like the essence, right? Is like having a good time with people that you like, because like it's not like we're getting like Scrooge McDuck doing this, right? Like it's not like we're in a vault full of money doing this. Like that, I mean, that's a dream, especially like when Rogan inked his deal with Spotify. Like that'd be awesome. But but the fact about these stories as visual storytellers, right? If you're not asking for these stories from these people and what have you, like they go away. And that's a big piece of the culture that will get lost. That's where you get, like, you know, kids that are training today in MMA or jiu-jitsu or whatever, they not know who Forrest Griffin is. Like, I've literally, like, walked into a place and, oh, no, even better. So, fights, right? Amateur fights here in California governed under CAMO, right? And, the California Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Organization. But two of the referees are none other than Chris Lieben and Frank Trigg, right?
Man, two legends.
Right. Like, one a UFC Hall of Famer, one should be there, right? And they're reffing these fights, and then, you know, they're trying to pull somebody off of somebody, and then the aggressor will push Trigg or Lieben, and I'm like, you do not know the hell. Like, I'd rather play in traffic. I'd rather look the devil in the face, piss in his mouth. Like that's Then go to fight like in a cage. It's not like Frank Trigg and Chris Lieben don't know what a cage is, and now they're the officiant, right? They've been pulled off of people. They know where you've been, right? And you don't know. And like you want to. Good luck, bro. Good job.
Yeah. 1 foot in the grave, buddy.
Yeah, but that's without the stories of, you know, Chris Lieben and Anderson Silva, you know, or just Chris Lieben just retired in BKFC.
Yeah.
You know, like a couple weeks ago, right? Yeah. So, like, but see, that's the thing is these stories, like, you know, and remembering and you know, realizing like what we have every weekend, even though like the last. You know, it was weird, and I think I posted something about it. Like the last UFC, the fight night, UFC Vegas 22, probably had the most knockouts per like capita. You know, from top to bottom, most finishes in probably UFC history, and no buzz at all, right? But like
there was only like two fights that went the distance. Everything else was a finish.
You know? Right, and but like I think. Yes, you can argue that UFC has oversaturated because, like, they pretty much took the ball and ran with it. The fact that, hey, they inked the deal with ESPN a couple years before. They were the first, sport to come back, and hey, they needed insatiable content. There's talking head programs and everything like that. For nothing to talk about, they could not exist, right? So, with that all being said, UFC gave them that fodder, but to get to where we are now, where we have a fight every week and all that jazz, like, with not, your story of your dad having, like, that illegal scramble box, or, hell, my dad had one too, and, like, we wouldn't know how good we have it now.
Yeah. I mean, the hard times make you appreciate the good times.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of, like, the podcast, like, what has been, you guys are still early on, but, like, what has been, like, the best, like, kind of gratification of doing it?
I guess, like, getting random messages from people, they're like, dude, what you said about so-and-so was so true, or you know what? You had me dying and I almost crashed in the car because of X, Y, and Z story or whatever, That's the stuff that makes it feel good and makes you feel, all right, I'm not completely wasting my time, and there are people listening, Yeah. So that's always gratifying.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, too, because, like, sometimes and it's funny, like, doing this, right? So, streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I was going to give up, like, the Twitch thing and choose, like, oh, maybe I'll go on Periscope or whatever the hell. Like, whatever, right? And then, like, some random person over in the UK, shout out to DJ Yannick's, but he was, like, asking people about their socks, and I was just like, wait, somebody on Twitch is listening. Because I just automatically assume, like, hey, it's going out to the ether. I'm proud of what I'm doing. Better than I was before. Kudos. Like, cool. Right.
Good for you, man. You got good stuff, man. So please keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate it, but that's the thing. It's like, people, I hadn't been training jiu-jitsu, but, like, for quite a while, but I was in the same situation as you. Like, I was used to, going and doing interviews and a couple commentary shots at local MMA or pro wrestling shows, right? Almost every weekend for the last 4 or 5 years. And then literally was on the way to Commerce Casino for Lights Out Extreme Fighting, and in the 20-minute travel from my car, getting in and then going to Commerce Casino, essentially what happens is no fights. Like, I went for weigh-ins, and then no weigh-ins. Like, not even a cage setup, whatever, the day before. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, what happened? Look on their Instagram or whatever. Didn't do anything, literally anything, for the first part of the pandemic, because we didn't know if we were going to live or not, right? Like, that was a very real
times.
Yeah, but then, I think June of 2020, a couple of my friends that had podcasts, shout out to Dave Madden of MMA Storytime, and the Keyboard Warriors, Eddie Law and Fred Kirby. But they had me on their podcast, and they're like, Woods, why aren't you doing this? Like, it's so easy. Do this. Here's StreamYard. Do what you will with it. And I was just like, okay, and here we are, less than a year later, close to 400 episodes, and it's just, but it's fun, getting these stories and, like, trying not to fanboy out of people, but then, like, they're friends, and it's like, it's weird, and they've got stories to tell, and they are so kind to come on, and it's just fun. People come in the comments, they chime in, and, at a time where a lot of people are feeling just, like, alone. Right? Yes, 2020 definitely. And 2021 have kind of led us into this kind of weird solitary confinement, for the lack of a better term, right? And we're all trying to figure it out together. So what better way than this? And, I'm not going to say, like, oh, follow me over here on YouTube if you don't like Twitter or whatever. I'm just going to bring this thing to you. Yes. Watch it if you like it. Don't if you don't. A sub would be cool, even if you, like, just swipe right or whatever the hell. Like, and just have fun.
Yes, and that's one of the things that we said at the beginning. We're doing this not to make money, not because we want to be posting stuff up and getting the likes, but because we like talking shit, and we like visiting with each other, and we want to talk about people's stories. You want to share what people are doing out there, you know?
Yeah, and especially the fact that, you know, it's weird because, so, you know, especially with the guests, right? Like, you appreciate them so much, or even doing it with your cousin Anthony, and you appreciate each other so much, right? But you don't really fucking say, or it wasn't, you know, like, like, maybe it's just like my dad's, you know, African descendant of slaves side, or my mom's Fijian side, but like the only time we get together, and these are two different cultures halfway around the world, right, apart from each other, and it's like the only time we will get together is when somebody passes away, right? So like, this is cool because you get to show the appreciation that you have for the person, for the art, the whatever. Like, I wonder how, you know, like, if anything happened to Frank, like, I didn't know Jiu-Jitsu was a major part of his life. Well, you know, because you should be subbed to the JJC2C podcast,
Right.
checking that out and whatever, and just like getting away from the rest of the world. And even if, like, hey, it's scary. I mean, Ja Rule, like, Carson Daly was asking Ja Rule after 9/11, what the fuck? Which is kind of weird. Why would you ask Ja Rule, what the fuck? But again, that time was a strange time, you know?
Yeah. That was great TV.
It was. It was.
Sorry, Ja Rule, why they put
Dude. Oh, God, I can't believe that was a thing. Anyway. It's so weird. Ja Rule, weird. Right? Nickelback, I'm like, fuck yeah, Nickelback.
What was that documentary he did where they were trying to throw the party on the island?
Oh, Fire... Well,
The Fire Festival?
Fire Festival.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because, like, when AEW did the Fighter Fest, I don't know too much about games. Like, I'm not an online gamer. I buy Madden. Like, I have an Xbox just because, like, Madden, the new installment of WWE and UFC games come out on console.
Right.
The fuck anything else, right? And I play by myself. Like, the hell I'm gonna go to work and, like, people say, like, blah, 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 fucking TPS reports, whatever the fuck, and, like, whatever. The fuck if, like, some 7-year-old is fucking talking shit because I don't know how to fucking, like, I don't know, like, get my way out of a fucking omoplata on a fucking video game. I can get out of it in real life, fuck.
Right.
You know? But I, like, that's, yeah, you bloody shit. Oh, fucker. Where are your parents, damn it?
Right.
Fucking A. But yeah, like, that's that. So when AEW did, like, Fighter Fest, I was just like, wait a minute, is that the, fuck, are they, like, I thought AEW was full of shit. I was like, they're gonna probably put some people on an island in a fucking wrestling ring and, wow, okay. But it's a different thing. I've come to find out.
There's a lot of stuff out there, man. It's crazy times. People are getting really creative.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Speaking of creation, Antonio Martinez saying, "So proud of you, cuz."
Hey, love you, cuz. Thanks.
Yeah. Shout out to Antonio. Thank you for joining us over on YouTube. No, but
there.
yeah, dude, and it's cool. You know. Obviously, you know, business and family, they don't usually work out. But you and Cousin Anthony have figured out, like, a synergy. And, I mean, where does that come from? Were you guys always close? Or did you get closer by...
Oh, yeah, no, we've always been close, man. We're like brothers. So, basically, everybody in the crew I would consider as like a brother. So, it's Cousin Ant, it's me, Alfonso Cumplido, my good homie, and then Eddie. So it's really the four of us who just we just vibe, you know. We're always looking out for each other. We always want what's best for each other, and we don't mind talking smack on each other when we need to. You know, if your head gets too big, we'll slap you back down.
Yeah.
But we're big combat sports fans, and we love what we talk about. And so when we come together for these things, it's just I'm sure you know, man. Time just flies on these things, and before you know it, you're 2.5 hours deep in something.
Oh yeah, and that's funny because, like, some people who, by their self-admission, I will never say it. I feel like once we get to talking, like, we're gonna go, right? And but most people are like, oh man, an hour or whatever. I'm like, you'll see.
You won't even feel it, man.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'm wrapping it up, and they're like, wait, like, can I come on again? I'm like, yeah, sure, fuck, let's do this. Like, right on. Yeah. Oh, there is. Shout out to George Hermosa of the Wrestling Chatter, because this. So many reasons to shout out George Hermosa. Not only I thought I knew a lot of shit about pro wrestling, but like through his deals with like AfterBuzz, and he's just like the savant. He's like what Warren Buffett is to investing, George Hermosa is to pro wrestling history, right?
He's a treasure.
That's awesome. All right. It's the oracle of pro wrestling is what, you know? So, but George Hermosa had me on the podcast, and we basically had, it was us two, and then Victoria, Lisa Marie Verone, kind of talking about the year of her and Trish and whatever, and kind of chronicling the first one and whatever, right? But then also, George Hermosa saw none other than former XPW commentator, the one and only Chris Kloss, and not just XPW, but Pro Wrestling Society X and whatever, Chris Kloss, right? And we went like 3 hours in the middle of fucking night. Like, we started at, I want to say 11. Started at 11, got done around 3. Like, whatever. Dang. Right? Hermosa was on the whole time, and he was like, hey, Woods, we're beating Kloss's record. I said, okay. He thought I was joking. We did
you were ready.
5 hours, bro. Whoa, 5 hours. Dude. 5 hours.
Whoa.
Just, yeah.
Oh, that's a good time.
But it can go, like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, if you don't, it's like hang out with buddies, right? And especially at a time where we can't hang out with, you know, like, we literally have to be like those Intel Pentium fuckers, you know, like with the fucking hazmat suits and shit. And I think the Flaming Lips played a show during COVID where they're all in orbs, like the audience are in orbs and shit like that. And like,
I remember that.
Which you know, everybody wants to talk about like the next phase of like jiu-jitsu. We've got like EBI and we've got combat jiu-jitsu and fight to win. I say fucking, and there was a little bit of time we had like jiu-jitsu in the car. You've never seen the video?
No, I've never.
Oh, I'm gonna bombard your fucking DM, bro. I'm sorry. Yo, these motherfuckers are getting it in the car. No, like they're like I like literally like 3 days after IBJJF was like, we're canceling all of 2020. Well, only, and I think it started in Florida because. Of course, fucking Florida. Yeah, but motherfuckers are choking each other out in the car. Wow. Funky, bowing, slap hands, and fucking get at it in the fucking car. Seats up. Not even pulling it down. Like fucking bambolos around the fucking seat. Oh my God, I'm going to bombard your DMs, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. People got too much time on their hands, man. Way too much time.
That's why 400 podcasts in. That's where we're at. Yeah. Like, and it's weird to think about. I think maybe I know for sure for like 2020. Now, obviously, he had a move and a fucking changing of platforms, but I know I put in more hours than Rogan. 100%. More recorded hours in 2020, and that's just like July to. Oh, I'm not like. Oh man, the first one was rough. Jacob was always at a CSW. I was still trying to figure it out, whatever. And he had the LFA fight and everything like that. But it was rough. Only about like I thought like up until maybe December, right? July to December. I was like, anybody that subscribes to the fucking podcast, they're just a friend and they're supporting me. It's like it's the golf clap. Like they just like, we're just doing something. I think it was December when I was just like, I actually started watching and listening as a fan. Not even me. Like I would every time like I would fucking talk, I would mute it or whatever the fuck, and then listen to the answer. Like I know what I'm gonna fucking say, so I already know, right? But I want to hear the response because like I just want to fucking hear good shit, you know. And also like other fucking people's podcasts. Like if you're starting a podcast, like I went to radio school in 2003, had to abide by FCC regulations and all that jazz. So, like, the fact that I have a studio in the corner of my apartment, and I can say fuck.
You can
10 points. I'm in. Hell yes. Hell yes. So my mom, it's funny because she kind of raised me in the vein of her dad in Fiji, who's the very first, like, broadcaster, non-BBC. Like, Fijian-born broadcaster was my grandfather, right? So I think she kind of put it in my head, like, this is what you're going to do, right? She's gone or whatever. But, like, if I were to tell her, like, hey, Mom, I can do all the things that you see on TV or listen to on the radio. I can do it from my apartment. She's like, and you're not doing them 5 times a day? And that's kind of it, you know? Man, and it's also like, I don't know, I never got into Pokemon Go, but the euphoric rush that I get when people are like fucking telling stories and just like shooting their shit, that's awesome. Like, yeah.
I just want to hear people's stories, man. You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have any goals with the podcast, or is it still too early to tell? You are way ahead of where I am. You have a website, you've got merch, you've got all the Twitters. Like I failed upwards, where like I just like, hey, I'm gonna do the thing on Facebook. I think I started like on IG Live, and then when IG Live would delete them, I was like, oh, that's fucked, man. There was some cool shit on there and whatever. And then this thing happened and whatever. And then I would post it on Twitter. And then a couple people follow me on Twitter. And then, like, it's so weird. It's so weird where it's gone. But I'm proud of it. It's something that I'm absolutely proud of. Now, you and Cousin Anthony are wizards. You have all of this shit kind of taken care of. You've got a great infrastructure for the podcast. So, I mean, do you have any goals with it?
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate that. As far as goals for the show, right now, like, we're just audio, but eventually we want to do video. You know, we'd love to do video. And once the jiu-jitsu starts opening up, I mean, like in the past, I'm sure you know, just visiting shows, going to tournaments, even back in the day, going to MMA shows. You're just walking around and boom, next thing you know, oh shit, there's Randy Couture.
Yeah, Forrest Griffin, just walking through.
There's Frank Mir at the strip club. There's, you know what I mean? Like, there's people all around and they have no problem talking to you, you know? They're so personable.
Yeah.
So that's really my goal. That's the next level that we want to do. We want to start getting out to the shows and start interviewing the athletes in their environment, in their church, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And bring that to the people. Let them know, hey, what's it like walking to the cage? What's it like when you touch fist bump for the last time and you know that guy's kept trying to trash you or whatnot? Or how did you get started? You know, oh, my ex-girlfriend's boyfriend triangle choked me like Fabricio Verdun's story. You know what I mean? I love to hear stories like that.
No, I love it. And again, I think you have the recipe for a success. You're doing so much in such a short. No, man, it's you guys. Fuck, man. I try to do like merch, and I was just like, and another thing, like another whole fucking venture kind of popped in my head. Whatever. I think there will be According to Woods merch. It's just like I also want to make sure I don't get sued by Tiger Woods, but I mean he's like the new Evel Knievel, fucking, you know, crashing into fire hydrants and, you know, fucking, man, Jesus. I'm not even like the most popular Woods, so, you know, once I don't get sued for using the fucking name, I'm like, yeah, fucking merch. Cool, man.
Yeah, no, that was the merch got going because of Alfonso. So Alfonso put that shop together, and then with the help of some people from Podpage, because that's who we run our website through, they were able to guide me and teach us, show us how to put the shop up. So good job, Alfonso.
Yeah, shout out to Alfonso, man. And we're not talking about Carlton and Alfonso Ribeiro, but you know.
But he can do the Carlton pretty good.
Oh shit! It ain't unusual to be loved. No,
not by that guy. That guy's full of love.
Hell yes. Now, speaking of full of love, bro, like there have been a lot of people that have encouraged you, both your jiu-jitsu career via the podcast, like, and just in life in general. So take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Oh man, I should big shout out to Victor Cervantes at Rivalry Jiu Jitsu, head coach. Thanks, coach. He pushed me a lot to try the stand up. Going forward with this podcast, Eddie, thank you so much for getting us started on this. Cousin Ant, Alfonso, for jumping on this right away, not doubting what I said. He just, you know what? That sounds cool as F. Let's do that. You know. So Eddie, Alfonso, Cousin Ant, they bought into my vision, and we turned it into our vision, you know. So shout out to all of those guys, man. Company 21, thank you for hooking us up with some awesome guests, and everyone else who's appeared on the show as a guest. Thank you for, you know what I mean? Like, you can put a monetary value on a lot of things, on clothes, on even a private lesson, but you can't put a set value on someone's time. You know what I mean? So yeah. Adam, I appreciate your time. You know what I mean? You could have had anybody on, but you have this fool. So thank you.
All the time, all day, bro. Like, and that's the thing. Like, Rogan, right? Howard Stern, all of them, right? Even fucking Walter Cronkite. Everybody rolls in crews. I think Eddie Torres of the Rock and Roll Beer Guy podcast said it to me. It's like, yeah, like everybody that's successful, Rogan has his like everybody has their group. Hell, you go back into the fucking pro wrestling, right? The Goldust Trio. They protected the fucking champion. You have the fucking the Four Horsemen, right? Like that's it. You roll with your homies, right? So like that's it. It's like, if we can all kind of get this, like, fucking conglomerate together, you, me, Ralph Esparza, fucking Rock and Roll Beer Guy, fucking Keyboard Warriors MMA, like, all this shit, and just, like, fucking just do that. All the fucking, it's weird, like, all of the AfterBuzz, like, After Raw TV shows and all that shit that was getting done at AfterBuzz, your Xbox podcast and everything. Well, you know, the studio kind of went away and everything, and George Ramosa is one of them, Flowable Boys, there's a bunch of them, and they just kind of like did their own thing because they knew how to do it through the AfterBuzz, right? But if we can all
still there,
right, and if we can all get together and just like, hey, here's this thing. This is what we got. These are our friends. Check them out too. Follow them. All that stuff, like
build like a network.
Yes, you know? Absolutely, and just
that's my dream, man. I always said, if I hit the lotto, man, I'm gonna pay all my friends' salaries for X amount of years, and I'm gonna say, you know what? On Monday at 8 a.m., show up at this office because we're gonna create. You know?
Yeah.
So that's really the dream. You know what I mean? If we could get everybody on a show, and like you said, we all pull each other and rise to the top.
Yeah,
man, that would be the best.
That's the goal, you know. So it was very disheartening listening to Rogan and Clarissa Shields, you know, 2-time boxing gold medalist, because she's like, fuck, like I don't have any friends, like aside from like John Jones and Holly Holm, and Rogan was just like, of course, because you're a world champion athlete, they're world champion athletes, so that's why you guys vibe, right? So like that's it. So yeah, let's rise together, which has also been a great encouragement and has done this way longer than I have. The great Don McGuire of the Fighter's Voice with Don McGuire.
Hey, what's up, Don?
Yeah, what's up, homie and Frank? What's up, man? So hopefully you're doing well, Don McGuire. I'm gonna message you. But speaking of message, for people that want to get in touch with you, the podcast, all of the jazz, where is the best place on social media to find all of it?
I would probably say on Instagram. Follow us at Jiteiros C2C. You know, we're always posting clips, screenshots of interviews that we're doing, or sometimes we post it up. We found an animator on Fiverr, and this guy's been turning our stories into South Park cartoons. So that was another thing that we talked about doing, and we were like, you know what? Who cares? Let's just do it. And after the first one, we loved it so much that we created. I think we got like 4 now. So yeah, thank you.
And shout out to Fiverr. Again, folks, if anybody wants to know about the intro and everything, that's where I got it.
Dude, I love your intro. It is pro.
You're too kind,
way,
man.
dude.
We're,
It's awesome.
we're figuring it out just like it, and I might actually have a way for you to do the video, but we'll talk off air. We'll talk off air. But again, go ahead and follow the Jiteiros. I think I got it. Fuck yeah, man. Yes, C2C, and I believe it. C2C is coast to coast, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You made me feel like a genius
right now. Yeah, you are a genius.
You are. So go ahead and follow Frank and the Jiteiros Coast to Coast podcast. And, if you're in that following mood, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Frank, you're subscribed, right?
Yes, definitely.
Damn right. And if you don't believe my word for it, or Frank's, and I don't know why you wouldn't, well, here's Professor Zeta saying,